Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 talk a lot, pick a little more, pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little, cheep, 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 cheep.
Professor, her kind of woman doesn't belong on any committee.
I'm speaking to Michelle Maras and Amy Hamilton, members of Toastmasters International. We're going to talk about the Toastmasters, also about free monthly events called Stomp the Prompt. Michelle and Amy, thank you both for coming out.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first thing about Toastmasters, I know very little about them. I know that they're a public speaking and leadership organization. Could you maybe put a few more words into that?
Well, Keith, I'm very proud of you for not asking me about Toast. Toastmasters International is an organization that helps people develop speaking skills and actually grows speaking skills for things that you already have. Not just speaking, but leadership also.
Let me back up a little bit. You are part of a specific sector, is that the correct word to use, of Toastmasters, or division of Toastmasters?
District.
It's a district.
A district. D26 for both of you?
Yes. My home club is Pikes Peak Toastmasters. We meet on Wednesday morning at 6:44 a.m. at the National Swimming Pool Foundation off of 30th and Garden of the Gods.
My home club is Colorado Springs Toastmasters 555. It is the oldest club in Colorado Springs, and we meet downtown at the City Hall. It's a really wonderful venue, and sometimes we're even able to speak in the City Hall chambers, and our meetings are Mondays at 6 p.m.
Okay, and you're Southern Division Governor of D26?
Yes.
Okay, and Amy?
I am one of Michelle's area governors. There are 6 areas in the Southern Division.
Okay.
And so I'm responsible for the maintenance and happiness of 3 clubs.
You have something called Stomp the Prompt, free monthly events at the third Saturday of each month. So the next one's going to be February 21st?
Yes.
Okay, so what is Stomp the Prompt?
Stomp the Prompt was a wild brain child of a group of leaders here in the Southern Division. And what we decided to do was, a lot of people, when they say, what do you do? And I say, I'm a Toastmaster. Or so-and-so says, I'm a Toastmaster. People say, you're not an old man who makes toast. And we wanted to change that perception because Amy and I are definitely not old men who make toast.
No.
And we wanted to make sure that the world realized that Toastmasters is around us all the time, and that just because it says a professional group that helps people speak, it doesn't mean you're going to speak for crowds, not necessarily, but for if you meet someone in the elevator, or if your boss says, so, how's that project going today? That kind of thing. Toastmasters would help you. Now, how do we do that? We had to bring it to the public. We had to stop sitting in our clubs and bring it back out. And we got a nice venue at the Cottonwood Center for the Arts.
Yes.
And yes, they gave us a great venue. And what we do there is we have an hour session of education. And every month that education session changes. And let's say in January, we had the PM
Project Management Institute on how to projectize your public speaking. I'm also a member of the Project Management Institute for the Pikes Peak chapter here as well. And I combine 2 things which I absolutely love, which is project management and public speaking. One of the things I've seen Toastmasters do is they have a vision of they want to be a public speaker, but then they can't really draw it all together because they're very creative people. They're people who have the vision, but they don't necessarily have the organizational skills. So the entire concept of that workshop was, how do we take a public speaker who's very creative with all kinds of storytelling skills and not ruin that creativity, but give them a framework and some basic project management tools that then they could use and go forward with their public speaking with that.
It's essentially improving your interpersonal skills.
Yes, but that was the first hour.
Okay.
With Stomp the Prompt.
Okay.
After that hour of education, we go to something called open mic.
Uh-oh.
Which is where the name Stomp the Prompt came from.
Okay.
Because you come up and we have questions, and you can volunteer, you don't have to, but people will go up and will ask you a random question like, why is the sky blue? And I would ask, and let's say Amy would come up and she would say, I think the sky is blue because, and just start talking off the top of her head. And she has to do it for 2 minutes.
Well, actually, it's between 1 to 2.5 minutes. We're a little gentler than that on our speakers. And what's really nice is when you get in front of a situation like this and we have that tendency where we ramble and we're not really sure what we're going to say, so we struggle for our words.
Oh, I know some folks could use some Toastmasters. Never mind.
Exactly.
Sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
We have lights for that, though.
Yes.
So at 1 minute, you get a green light that says you've met our minimum.
Okay.
At a minute and a half, you get the yellow light that says, hey, you're right in the middle. At 2 minutes, you get the red light. And if you go to 2.5 minutes, we all start clapping for you.
Excellent. It makes me think of extemporaneous speaking in high school. Being able to speak, which is really important, especially if you're a person who's out doing things or looking for a job or you have a position where you deal with people every day.
The other thing we've also incorporated into the open mic night is that we have experienced Toastmasters do small speeches. And then that way it kind of loosens up the crowd, and they're fun and they're lighthearted stories, and we have a really good time.
Going to a regular Toastmasters meeting as opposed to going to a Stomp the Prompt meeting, what's the difference in just being a regular member of Toastmasters?
Well, Toastmasters is, I would say, more formal. We still have a lot of fun, but because we're normally meeting within, like, right before work starts or at lunchtime or right after work, we're very time oriented. So if we say a meeting starting at, in my case, 6:44 a.m., we start at 6:44 a.m. If we say we will be done at 8, we are done at 8. That's the glory of Toastmasters. Now, with Stomp the Prompt, it's not a meeting. It's an event. We have an absolute wonderful time. And am I allowed to say this?
Go
we
ahead.
have adult beverages available for purchase.
I saw that also. I saw the cash bar thing. I'm like, okay, here we go. Okay.
I think another important difference is your audience. You get very used to your club. Most of the clubs are around 15 to 20 people with 10 on a regular basis. And you get to know them and they're your family. When you go to Stomp the Prompt and you have up to 40 or so people listening to you, it's a completely different experience. And there's strangers out there. It can be very overwhelming. So even though your experience within your club, this is taking you outside the club. And as Michelle mentioned, this is an event. This is actually fun. And that's really what you're getting out of it. It's just a really wonderful time.
You're listening to the KCME Culture Zone. Keith Simon is speaking with Michelle Mraz and Amy Hamilton of Toastmasters International about their upcoming Stomp the Prompt event on February 21st. How can you become a Toastmaster?
We have an enormous amount of clubs right here in Colorado Springs. And we kind of joke and say we're a 10-step program because our first manual has 10 speeches that you give. So we're not a 12-step program. But literally any day of the week in Colorado Springs, there is a Toastmasters club that you could attend.
And on that website we give you, it has a map of it.
D26toastmasters.org. Now also for Stomp the Prompt, it's stomptheprompt.coclubspeak.org. The one coming up on February 21st is Harnessing the Power of LinkedIn.
And this is going to be done by Joyce Fustel, and she runs Boomer's social media. I met her at a Toastmasters conference, actually, and she has a skill set that people need because a lot of times as we're more mature, we're not as willing to venture out into social media. So I said, Joyce, you are phenomenal. I want you to come speak at my Project Management Institute and talk to everybody about how to use LinkedIn. That actually turned out to be her first paid speaking opportunity. She then critiqued my LinkedIn page publicly for an hour, completely decimating me. But I took everything that she said, made the improvements, and within 2 months, I was actually recruited by Colorado Technical University to come teach adjunct for them. So the entire thing came full circle, and she is phenomenal. And what I can guarantee is if you come there, you listen to what she says about the LinkedIn profiles, and you make those changes, and you're a job seeker, this is going to get you noticed by recruiters.
So Amy, after this February Stomp the Prompt, you have 2 more in March and April?
That's correct. The first one I want to talk about is March 21st, and it's called First Impressions. It's all about image and public speaking. The person that we're having to come do the workshop is Sharice Exline. She is a specialist in beauty pageant winners, but really on how to present yourself. The other part of her clientele, though, who like to remain secret, is she also works with politicians and helping them to improve their image. Because really, when you're front of an audience, not you here on the radio, but for the rest of us, it's all how do you look in public and how do you present yourself? And the second speaker is, of course, very modest, and that's our very own Michelle. If you could tell them about our April meeting.
Oh, the April meeting. Now I have to also interject. This is a year long. So in April, I am doing the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And what I'll be doing is, depending on the crowd that comes in, we'll overview the 21 laws, and then we will concentrate on 3 of them, and then we'll go through the night with that.
Stomp the Prompt, brought to you by Toastmasters International, and it'll be at the Cottonwood Center for the Arts, 427 East Colorado Avenue, the 3rd Saturday of the month. So February 21st for this month. And do you have the dates for March and April?
It's March 21st in March and April 18th in April.
Also, the website is stomptheprompt.coclubspeak.org, and the main website for your division of Toastmasters is d26toastmasters.org, and there's also a lot of information on there as well. Michelle and Amy, thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having us.